Hi everyone, I'm Kate Dorsey. Welcome to Wellness Wednesdays. We have like a little ray of light happening over here, which I like. So I'm just gonna invite my brother to join us. Um, he is gonna be talking to us about how to overcome failure, which I'm super, super excited to talk about. As a reminder, I do this show every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Whoops, just kidding. 3 p.m. Oh, cool. 3 p.m. Pacific. Uh, three. Just kidding. Yeah, 3 p.m. Pacific. 6 p.m. Eastern. All right, so I'm gonna bring Todd on, and we are gonna talk about how to overcome failure, and what those steps are. Bear with me, my tripod is a little unstable. It was wrapped around a suitcase in a park today. The joys of traveling and being on the road. So I'm still continuing my East Coast leg. Oh my gosh, Todd Dorsey,
I
hello.
love how you're like, it's 3 p.m. Mountain Central Time. You have no idea what you're doing.
I don't even know where I am. Okay, I slept through. Actually, no. You know what happened today? I didn't set an alarm. I set it for the PM time. Not effective.
Yeah.
Not effective. So it's been one of those.
At
So
least you match your denim to the background. You know what I mean?
I did. I'm super coordinated. Hey, Jill, thanks for joining. So good to see y'all. So for those of you guys who don't know, Todd is actually my brother. What? So
Way
cool.
more attractive sibling. Yes, thank you.
Yes, absolutely. I don't think so.
Okay.
Clearly not. So we're actually going to be talking about failure. I'm actually bringing Todd on to talk because he actually has an upcoming book that's going to be coming out. Do you guys have a timeline on that, when it'll be out?
The first edit will be done in the next 2 weeks, and then we should have an official launch like December 1st. So.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you. I know it's been
Yeah.
writing a book is a pain in the ass. Who knew?
Okay, all right. Hey, Tony, thanks for joining. All right. So we're actually going to be talking about failure, though, and your book is really about purpose, like figuring out what you want to do. Todd is actually a recruiter, does a lot of work in that, is branching off, was a former career counselor. Actually, why don't you tell them a little bit about you and what you do, and then we'll dive into how to really overcome failure.
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, my name is Todd Patrick Dorsey, by far the better of the Dorsey siblings. I started my career doing career coaching and career counseling, and then I went into corporate recruiting, and then I launched my own company doing corporate recruiting. So I would say at this point in my career, I've done easily over 10,000 interviews, phone, group, panel, and probably helped 1,000 plus people figure out what they want to do and where they want to go. I do a lot of public speaking on it, and I just this past year focused on taking all of those concepts and putting them into a book so that it can be distributed easier and people can get access to it for cheaper. So that is my short story.
All right, awesome. Not the better looking sibling, but whatever. Okay, so the reason I wanted to bring Todd on is because he's had such a large amount of experience in getting people placed in careers that are meaningful to them, that allow them to feel better. And so as we were talking a lot about how do we overcome failure, and what definition do we really need to have for success? And so, Todd, I was wondering if you could share a little bit about how would you work the definition of success so that folks can really understand that, and then we can move into what steps can be used to help us overcome failure.
Yeah. And so part of it is like, what's my pedagogy coming in? So, I've started 4 companies. I've been through 4 major career transitions. And so I've come up against a lot of rejection and a lot of failure. So when Kate asked me to talk a little bit about it, I thought it'd be useful to cover kind of how I think about it, because I think that is such an important part of being able to continue to move forward. So I have a working definition of success and a working definition of failure. And the main reason that I choose to define them this way is so that I can continue to move forward, continue to put energy and effort and stay engaged, even when things really aren't working out in my favor at all. And a lot of people, they'll have a definition of success or failure where it really stops them, and they'll beat themselves up, or they'll just kind of go in circles and loop back on the same, not really helpful, negative types of thinking. So the best working definition I've seen so far throughout, my reading, I'm been reading on personal development for 10 years plus. Best definition I've seen of success so far is continuing to put concerted effort into the things that you value. That's it. That's all that requires for success. There's no external indicator of it. It's really all comes down to, have I put concerted effort into the things that I value? And it doesn't matter. I mean, it could be health, it could be relationships, it could be business, it could be money, it could be your relationship with your mom, it could be any of these. But at the end of the day, it's, have I put concerted effort into the things that I value? And then the best working definition I've seen of failure is, did I try? Meaning that the outcome doesn't matter. Did I put the effort in? Did I go for it, so that when I put my head on my pillow at the end of the night, I know that I did what I could to make something happen positive in my life. It doesn't matter the outcome, negative or positive. All that matters is, did I actually go for it? So feel free to beat yourself up if you don't go for it, if it's going to help you take action. But generally, I've seen that when people use these two working definitions, they continue to move forward, because they're like, okay, if I'm putting effort in, then I'm successful. And if I'm going after what I want, then that's an actual win, not the actual outcome.
Okay, so really, like, success is, am I putting in the effort, and failure is actually just not even trying.
Not trying, yeah. So whatever it is, like, you see a business that you want to try to do, you see a person of the opposite sex you want to talk to, you see a relationship in your life that you want to do better by. If you try, you're winning, and if you don't, then it's a failure.
So that's fascinating, because that's like a completely different definition. Most people will say failure is, I put in an effort and it didn't work out as I intended. And so a lot of folks will get caught up in that, and they'll use that to stop them from going after their dreams. And you're really saying, hold up. If you're not even trying, then you already have failed.
Yeah. I want to put failure where it actually is, which is firmly in my control. Like, there's so many things I can't control, and if I use external indicators for failure or success, I'm going to be driving a car by looking in the rearview mirror. I'm always going to be looking behind me instead of focusing on what actually is going to get me there, which is me showing up, me being present, me putting the energy in.
Right. So I love to think of failure as a process, that it's always just an opportunity to learn, to rework. And so you're really saying that if we're driving and we're looking behind us at everything that hasn't worked out, that we're getting too caught up, and that we're really supposed to be like, what's the goal? And then we can take that obstacle or that hurdle and use it to keep moving forward, but not to get so stuck in the rear view that you're no longer holding the vision of where you're headed.
Yeah, the other thing is, I want to take fear off the plate. Like, so many people are afraid of failing, and I'm like, like, there is no failure. Like, if you try, you've already done it. You've already won. And that way I remove all of the pressure of having to, like, succeed or not fail in the public sphere. And I want it 100% focused on what's my effort, what's my energy going in. And it's like, straight up, like, if I don't try, I fail. And as long as I tried, if I showed up and I tried, it's a win. And in my mind, I get rid of any sort of, like, negative loop thoughts of, oh, I didn't do well enough on this presentation, or, oh, I didn't do as well as I'd like to in that competition, or, oh, I didn't do as well as I'd like on that relationship. And I'm like, okay, did I try? Did I show up and I try? And if I did, then it's a win. And the only failure for me is not showing up and not trying.
Yeah. Okay. So this is great. If any of y'all have any questions, just go ahead and type them below in the comment section. If this is making sense to you, let us know. If there are some tips that you're really wanting to hear, give us some questions. We're happy to answer them. So if we're really thinking about it, it's really about putting forth an effort. So when you've been working with folks that are figuring out career stuff, because a lot of folks really struggle with, what the heck am I doing here? Like, what is my purpose? And I know you saw a lot of that in career. How would you rework it for those folks that are trying to figure out their purpose and keep having them move forward instead of like being stuck in the rearview mirror?
Yeah. So if we're gonna focus it just on that area, I mean, the fact that they're even reading a book or listening to a video or coming to have a conversation with me is already a win, because they're already putting effort in, and I'm like, you're already winning by showing up. So same type of thing. Like, people will be really hard on themselves when they do interviews. They'll be like, oh, I didn't do that well. Look, man, if you showed, that's a win. Showing up in of itself and actually trying for it is a win. Like, you're not a failure for trying. You're a failure for not trying every single time. Are you okay over there?
Effort. Yeah. I got cut out, I think.
Okay.
Is it still going? Yeah. It said connection something. I'm at an Airbnb. I don't really know. Okay. I was in a park earlier with my luggage.
Interesting.
Yeah. So really it comes down to effort. And you're really suggesting that folks give themselves credit for those things. And I would add on to that and tweak. So we don't have to be perfect. We don't have to know everything. It really comes down to, let's put forth an effort. Let's recognize that effort and then tweak it, because you're going to make mistakes. Maybe you show up at a job interview and you were late. Okay, lesson learned. Don't show up late next time. But good job still putting that effort in.
Yeah, so I have an example. So I tried to learn how to hip hop dance, and it was generally a disaster. Like, I went into
you and me both. I did the same, and it was
I went in, and it was like 20 people, and they did some dance off, and it's like, I'm getting my ass handed to me by 14-year-olds who can, like, obviously dance better than me. And if I took the traditional definition of success or failure, it's like, that was a failure. I got super embarrassed. Like, I was exposed very publicly on, like, my flaws in a certain area. And then I wouldn't want to do it again. But if my definition of failure is not trying, and my definition of success is actually putting the effort in, then that was a successful time. Even if by all intensive external purposes, I should not have been there.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Turns out we have that in common. Also not a good.
Did you try it? Yeah.
Oh, totally. I was like so far behind. I mean, and I'm also somebody that does something more than once. Like, I'm always like, well, maybe I should do it again. Like, maybe how it went down last time won't go down. Let me tell you, both times I took hip hop classes, solidly awful. But then again, I would say everything is a skill that can be learned.
Yes.
So while I clearly didn't have the choreography, had I had that desire, that drive, I could have kept going and made it better. Because whenever you're trying something new, you're not necessarily going to be good at it. So I want people to get that out of their mind. Like, stop showing up thinking you're going to be perfect at something. Start showing up with the openness and the willingness to learn. And that's something that I previously talked about earlier this month when it comes to failure. Shift it to learning. If you see that you are doing something and you're open to learning from it, it's going to have a tremendous impact on you. So I love what you're really sharing about try. Just try. Because if you don't try, then you are failing.
Yeah, and another thing that I really wanted to hit on today, because a lot of people do success and failure in relationship to goals. They'll have a goal, they'll have something that they want to do, and then they'll either get it or they don't get it, and they'll beat themselves up, right? And generally what I've seen is that goals are a lagging indicator. So, like, let's say that you want to make, $20,000 per month, right? Well, before you hit that, you're probably making a lot of small personal internal changes that are helping you to accomplish that, right? So what type of person makes $20,000 per month? A smart person, a person who is empathetic, a person who's really focused on solving problems, right? And if you focus just on the extrinsic goal, well, I made $20,000 this month or I didn't, it's nowhere near as effective as focusing on what are the changes I made to get there. Because a lot of the times when you don't hit your goal and you get upset, you're like, dude, I didn't get what I wanted. And it's like, you're discounting the fact that you're probably already 80% of the way there based off the changes that you've made internally. So
Right.
another success or failure, a large part is the cerebral understanding that goals are a lagging indicator, where you're going to already have done a lot of changes, a lot of the change work to get there. And if you're just focused on the extrinsic goal, you're not really going to give yourself credit where credit due, which is why I like
Right.
what you're talking about of, focusing on it being a learning. That way we can pull out the parts of ourselves that have grown and changed and keep the momentum going. Cause like, you don't want to give up or get unengaged, and we need to see
Right.
progress in some way. And if we don't see progress, we're not going to keep going after it. So, understanding that it's a lagging indicator, that goals are a lagging indicator will help someone continue to move forward.
Right. So
Boom.
essentially what you're saying is goals are feedback, but they're feedback that is on something that's already occurred in the past.
Yep.
So let's say you're like aiming to lose weight,
Mm-hmm.
and let's say you're really on this fitness routine, you're going to hit things, but you've got more progress and more momentum.
Yeah, you've already been making the changes, and you've already been making the habitual changes, and you've already been putting the effort in for a couple months, and like, the scale may not say the exact number that you want, but you're discounting like the 30, 45, 50, 60 days of change that have already occurred. And it's like, it's going to be a lagging indicator. Like, it's going to take a while for things to accumulate and for me to actually see a physical result in the external world. And I just see it all the time where people are like, oh, I didn't hit my goal, and they beat themselves up. And I'm like, dude, like, you've already accomplished so much even by setting that and going after it, and you're completely taking the wind and the momentum out of your sails by thinking about it that way.
So you're suggesting we keep going, that we stop getting caught up on what reality is showing us, because we've already got momentum going, we're being carried forward, and whenever we stop to take stock, we get sidetracked, and then and I love what you're talking about with beating yourself up. So one of the things that I'm really going to stand for is stop criticizing yourself. Like, you should be your biggest fan, your biggest supporter, your biggest cheerleader. I'm not saying walk around with a big inflated ego. I'm saying you can evaluate yourself, but you should give yourself credit. You should like yourself. You should want to feel good. And it really comes down to, how are you going to define things? So just like how you're suggesting, Todd, that we shift the definition of success and the definition of failure, the definition of success to making an effort, and failure being not trying, we also need to shift the criticism, the internal dialogue that we're having with ourselves. And that if we're really using goals aren't necessarily an indicator of where you currently stand, because you've got stuff already carrying you forward, and you can get sidetracked by those goals, start beating yourself up, and then fall down.
Yeah.
So Jill has a question. So at what point, when you don't get the results you want, do you move on and say it was just a step on your path? What do you think, Todd?
I always, if I have a goal, one of the things I do is and you know this, Kate, and we've talked about this, I break it apart to like what type of man or woman accomplishes that goal. So if a female is, trying to get in shape, it might be a person who puts effort into their body. It might be someone who's mindful of the food that they eat. It might be someone that makes sure they're doing the amount of exercise. And if I'm not hitting my goal, then I'm looking at these other things and making sure that, okay, am I doing that? Am I being mindful of that and giving myself credit where credit due? Because like, it's not going to stop. And the other thing this prevents is like, you hit your goal, then what? And then a lot of people
reset.
They
reset. You always need new goals.
Okay, but here's part of it. Sometimes it takes people a while to reset. And so they lose that momentum. But if you break it apart to the character goals, you realize right when you hit it that like you give yourself credit for like, okay, I have been disciplined. Okay, I have been this. And like, then you can easily switch the goal to, how do I become a little bit more mindful in what I eat today? Or how do I become a little bit more like the person that accomplishes this type of goal? And that way I don't have these large resets because people get disillusioned. They set a goal, they get it, and they're not happy. And it's like they haven't thought about the personal growth that's occurred for them to get there. And then
Right.
focusing on that will help them kind of smooth those transitions when they're resetting goals, if that makes sense
So,
at all.
yeah. So Jill, I hope that makes sense. What I would also say is that when we have a larger goal, it's not a move on, it's a reevaluation. Like, what do I need to, I'm always thinking of what do I need to tweak to get there? Because I've always got a big vision that I use to carry me forward. We can call that goal setting. And then I use that and I'll tweak. So I take everything in as feedback, as just information. And then I'm going to look at that, evaluate that, and figure out, okay, what's one small change I could make? So I'm not necessarily going to say I'm going to stop, and that, and so I'm always, like I said earlier, I'm always looking to learn. Let's see what she's saying. This is a wholesale line I'm selling, and the accounts I've sold didn't do well and don't want to buy again. Okay. So I would say there's room for evaluation there, Jill. I would say, what were they not happy with?
Mm-hmm.
What needs to be done differently within the wholesale line? Was it quality? Was it the product? What were the costs? Like, did it not sell? And then if it didn't sell, why didn't it sell?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always looking to evaluate. I get very curious and I question those things. So I hope that's helpful, Jill. Let me know if that's making sense. Todd, do you have any feedback on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm big. I always am thinking about the human buying process, right? So, I mean, my entire business is built on selling CEOs, on me providing a service, and then it's going through and selling people on working there. So, I always say sales 101. It's like I have to uncover the need first before I can sell in. So exactly what you're saying, where I'm like, why didn't it work? Where did it break down in the process? What were the decision points? And a lot of the times, granted, I can't get access to it, and the no is the only feedback I get, and I have to kind of put myself in their shoes to kind of try to feel out why I think they said no, and then tweak what I'm doing based off that, and then tweak. And it's like, really, at the end of the day, I'm just getting to know the person better and what really is important to them. Because once I've really uncovered the need and I really have an offer that they're going to want, it'll flow, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes total sense to me. Jill, you said didn't sell, so I don't consider myself a failure. Great. Please
Good.
don't. Just want to drop the line and sell something else. My question to you, Jill, would be, do you ever do that in any other area? Are you ever heading on a path towards a goal, it doesn't work, and you just drop it? I would ask myself that question, because how we do one thing is truly how we do everything. And you can absolutely decide that you're going to not sell that line anymore. I would get curious about why it didn't sell. And then I would ask myself, do I have a pattern here? Do I ever do this in any other area? Is there ever any other goal that I really want? And then it doesn't go the way I want. I don't take it personally, but I just kind of like move on. I'm like, meh, never mind. So I hope that this was helpful. Jill, you can shoot me a PM. I know Todd's got some other, I know it's like only a 20-minute Facebook Live. I know Todd's got some other stuff. I'm happy to follow up with you on that. I really want this to be something that's beneficial for you, and I would love to hear if you feel like it is a pattern. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Todd, any other words of wisdom before we wrap it up? I love what you've shared on success as an effort, failure is not trying, and I like that you really dived into goals being a lagging indicator. Anything else?
Yeah, I would use you as a personal example. Like, you've gotten really good at this. And
Thank you.
maybe you haven't accomplished all the external things that you want, but like, just having known you for as long as I have, like, you've gotten much better. You're better at interviewing, you're better at leading a discussion, you're better at trying to frame a problem and bring value. And it's like, those are all those things you're doing such a good job of. And make sure you give yourself credit for it.
Yeah, everybody should do that.
Like, for
Thank
you,
you.
no, I
Everybody
love
should.
you. Like, I hope you do. Yeah, you're doing
Yeah, I
awesome.
love you too. Yes, we are siblings. And I'm super excited for your book. So you said December is when people should start to
Yeah,
look for it.
December 1st, and I can do like we'll probably do like 100 free books on the front end. So
Yeah,
I can stay in touch with
that'd be
you, and then
awesome.
anyone that you're connected with that needs help in that area
Yeah.
of life, we can connect on.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. So like Todd does work around purpose. And he does have a book coming out, and we'll definitely promo it through this page as well.
For sure.
So excited. I'm so glad everyone was able to join. Love seeing you. And we'll do this again. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye. Good job, Kate.
Bye.